Today we're at the SRI Conference and Community, and we're joined by Chad Meyer, Chief Meteorologist for CNN. Chad, could you tell us a little bit about your personal journey that brought you here this weekend to the SRI Conference and Community? Because it's quite an amazing journey. Can you please share that with us?
It's a long and winding road. I mean, I grew up in Nebraska, a very red state. I was Harry Husker. I wasn't big enough to play football, but I could be on the field as the mascot. And so growing up there, getting into meteorology, not climatology, meteorology. And that's where the distinction is. Meteorology is day to day. Is it going to be 72 or 74 tomorrow? Climatology means, is it going to be 72 next year or 74 in 3 years? That's the biggest difference between the two. And there are a lot of meteorologists talking about climatology, where we say a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing because we only, as meteorologists, only have a little bit of climatology in school. So what I did, after not truly believing that global warming was all man-made, it could be something else. What else could it be? I don't know. Could it be volcanoes? Could it be the sun? Could it be a number of other things that it's brought up? It turns out now that after a lot more research into the climate, not the weather, that we are on a dangerous path. You know, growing up, you think in Nebraska, where there's corn everywhere as far as you can see, it's a great place to sequester CO2. The corn grabs the CO2, gives off oxygen, and you're sinking a lot of CO2 out of the atmosphere until you feed that corn to the livestock and they make methane from eating that corn. So you're losing cause here. You really are a lost cause by trying to grow all of that and then feed it to livestock. And that's kind of part of the rub. Methane is over 20 times worse for the environment than CO2 is. So that's why growing up in Nebraska, we thought, hey, CO2 is going up. Yep, it is. The earth is going to warm up. But if the earth warms, there'll be more clouds because there'll be more humidity. Those clouds will block out the sun, and then the earth will cool down. Mother Nature is bigger than people, right? How could man possibly affect the world? The world is so big. And in Nebraska, it's a pretty big world. You can see the sky. They call Montana a big sky, but there's a really big sky in Nebraska too. So should there be more plants if you make more CO2? That would maybe be something else. What the problem is here is the Jurassic period. We've all watched Jurassic Park. The Jurassic period was 100 million years plus or minus from where the dinosaurs and the ferns and things were truly thick and lush on the planet. Just like the corn was sequestering CO2, those ferns were sequestering CO2. Those plants, those trees, those rainforests, all sequestering CO2 for 100 million years. Then they got covered up, and now we have oil and coal and nat gas. The problem is we're burning 100 million years, or let's call it 50 million years, worth of sequestration into the ground. We're burning it as fossil fuel, and it's getting into the atmosphere. And the parts per million now, over 400. We're in a dangerous, scary place.
Now, you used the 400 as your tipping point.
I did.
So tell us a little bit about your tipping point.
Growing up and learning weather from school at the university, we thought that the ocean would really absorb anything over 360 to 380. And the ocean was going to acidify. And for a long time, for 10 years prior to where I am now and where we got to that 400, I worried about that CO2 getting into the ocean, becoming carbonic acid because there's a chemical process going on there, but making the acidity of the ocean change, killing the coral reefs, and eventually killing the fish. If you kill the ocean, you've killed the world. And that's where my concern was, killing the world, ocean out. Now I think it's a race. Are we killing the world land out or ocean out? Or can we stop this at some point in time by reducing, removing, recycling? We have to get rid of this CO2 in the atmosphere at some point in time. We can't let it on we call it the hockey stick. It's almost a straight line up. It's parabolic now, how fast CO2 is going into the atmosphere and how the oceans are rising. They simply are. It's nothing that we can do about it at this point in time. Glaciers are melting, yes, we talk about that, and you'll get this argument, well, the floating ice doesn't make the ocean go up. Yeah, when that melts, no, it doesn't. But grab a thermometer and warm it up. What happens to the alcohol or the mercury? It goes up. If you warm up the water, you're also going to make it go up. So we're now turning the ocean into a thermometer. And that's another reason why the ocean is going up now much more rapidly than when we were in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and even the 70s.
You know, climate change is top of mind for many of the participants here at this SRI conference and community. And their clients, for advisors in particular, their clients probably are very interested in learning more about why climate is so important and how it shapes their portfolios when it comes to the choices that they make around the investments that they make. If you were to explain in just a few sentences to a client of an advisor why they should be investing in SRI funds, what would you say to them? If you were sitting as an advisor right now.
Just green investing in general can be venture capitalistic, and you can lose it all. That's part of the problem. I lost a lot of money in Webvan. I thought that was going to be a great company. It turned out to not be. But when you have funds that look at these things, I've talked to some of these advisors and the people that are looking daily at every company and what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. It blows my mind the amount of institutional knowledge that they have compared to just a small investor like myself. They know things. They understand things. They understand that this is not the right company where we want to be right now. This is the company where we want to invest. And just pushing this forward, I have a 14-year-old child, and his world will not be the same as mine. It really will not. We are going to have millions, if not more, I don't know how many zeros we put on the end, of people that truly will not have enough food.
And what's going to happen when they don't have that food? Migration?
They are going to do anything it takes to get food.
What do you foresee that being?
Depending on where the crop failures occur, and there likely will be some, because that's one of the things that we're going to get with the CO2 going up and the atmosphere warming up and the changing of the amplitude of the jet stream. We're going to get places that are in drought, long-term drought. If that happens in the Corn Belt or anywhere in central North America, we're going to lose a lot of food. We're going to lose the ability to not only feed cattle, but we're going to lose the ability to feed people. If that happens in Russia, they also have a very large growing region. And it may be 1 year, 2 years, but if it's 3 years, if we lose 3 crops in a row, and we have something that looks like the Dust Bowl in North America, all of a sudden, we're not trying to feed 1 million or 2, we're trying to feed 7.66 billion people. We're not talking about when it was warmer before. It has been warmer. The CO2 has been higher. But we weren't trying to feed 7, almost 8 billion people. That's where my concern is. Kill the ocean or kill the land, we're still going to lose entire generations to famine.
You talked today about populations and how each country is contributing to climate change.
Oh, I get this a lot. I have very staunch friends that like to go watch a football game and talk climate all day long. And it's like, dude, I just want to watch the game. And their first thing is, why should I do anything if China's just polluting? Well, technically they are putting more CO2 and probably methane too into the atmosphere than the US in general. But per person, they're almost 1/3 of what the US is putting in. So when my friends say, why should I do something before they do something, they're already not as bad as we are. They're 1/3 as bad as we are. That's why you should do something. That's why you should, and there are things that can be little that turn big, but there are also things that you can invest in that may sequester CO2, just like plants, but there are machines and models that can be something. There are new battery technologies that we learned about. There are many scientific advances that are on the edge right now that will help us. There are batteries that may make your iPhone last 2 days instead of 1 day. There are batteries in making that, or in the process, that may let your car go 900 miles. Think about that. If you had an electric car, you could charge it and not have to worry about it. It's the reason why I don't own a truly electric car. I own a hybrid. It's gas and electric because I can go as far as the gas takes me and the electric takes me the rest of the way, and it goes back and forth. But I can't go to North Carolina and back if I don't have a charging station somewhere, and I just don't have that patience to have a true electric car right now. I need range. You know, I don't take 12-mile trips. When we go, we go.
But maybe an electric car isn't for everyone, or even a hybrid for that matter.
Yeah.
So what are the things that everyday people can do? You mentioned some of them in your presentation.
I mean, there are small things. You can make sure that your grass is green. That's CO2 coming out. That's a carbon sink. You can plant some trees. You know, there are just a number of ways. Reduce, reuse, recycle. The 3 R's. Just don't throw that bottle. You think it's one bottle, and you go, I'm not taking that down to recycling, and you pitch it away. Yeah, that's one bottle, but if everybody did that, think about how many million bottles that one bottle would turn into. It's a physical, you have to think about it now. You have to think about everything you do and how it can relate to helping the climate and keeping the numbers from CO2 from going higher, while allowing scientists to try to get them lower. I can't really right now think about what my boxes say.
And for future generations. For your son, he's 14 now. Mm-hmm. So 6 years from now when he's 20, what do you want this world to look like for him?
Oh, it's a scary thought. You know, it's a scary thought. We put this into perspective. If we don't do something by 2030, if we don't do something by 2050, whatever the numbers are, the typical person looks at that and goes, not my problem. I won't be here, not my problem. Oh, what do they know? How would they know that? They can't get a 10-day forecast right. How are they going to get a 10-year forecast right? But where we're going with CO2, there's nothing else that can happen. There are some good things, maybe 2, but the bad things would be 100. We're not talking about, oh, it's 50-50. You know, this will happen, this will be good, this will be bad. We can't get there. We can't get to the good because there's just so much bad. It's so overwhelming.
So for the naysayers,
I was one of them. I didn't believe global warming was completely man-made. Let me do that again. Yeah. I don't know, for a lot of my career, I was a weatherman, right? Didn't have the knowledge. A little bit of knowledge was a bad thing. Then I understood the process and got the knowledge and learned about it. And after I had a lot of knowledge, or at least enough knowledge, I knew that I was on the wrong side of the equation. You know, call me a flip-flopper. I mean, in politics, I would have flipped on the issue. But I really wish more people would flip because a lot of people are on the wrong side of this. And they won't understand or even be upset about it until it's too late.
well, we hope that your knowledge that you shared with all of us today at the SRI conference community will influence those who may be on the other side, influence them to flip over to this side. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. There's so many things we can do that as a society we need to start.
We look forward to seeing you next year.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We'll see. That's not up to me. All right.
We have a couple of other questions for you.
And just talk with Joanne.
Yeah.
What are some of the conversational points with people that are still in denial that this is happening and it's happening at a much quicker rate than what we all had anticipated? Are there talking points that we can incorporate into our conversations either with clients or colleagues or coworkers or neighbors or family members to help them to start to evolve in their thought process?
You know, a lot of financial advisors are going to get pushback. There are just a lot of people out there from Nebraska and other red states that just won't believe it. They don't disbelieve it, but they don't think that they could possibly be responsible or there's nothing that they could do. But there are so many theories out there, and now we call them zombie theories, that just aren't true. Oh, it's the sun. The sun's stronger. No, it's not. Oh, well, the Antarctic is getting bigger. Actually, no. Oh, well, this won't happen for another 100 million years. Sorry, I can't think. I need my PowerPoint. I crushed my PowerPoint. Let me look at it real quick. It was my crutch. What was the question again?
What do you say to the naysayers in everyday conversations, no matter with whom you're speaking, around things that we can start to talk to people in red states or deniers or other folks that just don't quite understand really what's happening?
Okay. I think if there was more information than misinformation, people would get it. But there's so much wrong out there that's just being spewed by people that haven't looked at it. They just make stuff up. I really do think there's some people are just making stuff up. Like, it's the sun is stronger. No, the sun's the same sun we've had all along. Oh, the rotation of the earth is different. Not lately. It's been hotter. Yeah, it's been a lot hotter. And we've had more CO2. True, we have. But we didn't have humans on the planet. We didn't have 7.7 million people, a billion people that we're trying to feed. So I don't know how it gets there. But the data that people hear is not the truth anymore. It's the same zombie theories that have been out there for a long time that have already been disproven. And that's where I started. That's where I started my journey. Went to each zombie theory and found a paper that either proved it or disproved it. And that's how I learned every one of those things. There are probably 25 different zombie theories where people are saying, this is happening. No, it's the thermometers, I believed this for a while, the thermometers are in the city. The cities are getting warmer, sure, but because the thermometers are in the city, that's why it looks like there's global warming. Well, we're not doing that anymore. We're using satellites. We're looking at the globe. We're not saying that Miami's warming, it is, but we're not saying that. We're saying that the globe in general, the ocean surface temperatures, places where people don't live, the amount of data we can get out of a satellite now and put it in there, and it's not long term. We haven't had satellites for 100 years, but we've had them long enough to see the trend on where the climate is changing. Oh, it hasn't been warmer since 1998. That was the warmest year ever. No, like 1998 is like 8th or 9th now. We've been warmer so many more times since 1998. Yet this still gets out there. People still talk about these things like it's the truth, where they've already been proven wrong.
And the next question is, you showed a really interesting PowerPoint slide about the relationship between CO2 and meat consumption and car consumption. Could you talk a bit about that?
Sure. Earlier you asked, what can someone do to help? Slow down eating meat. Sounds pretty silly, but if you feed a cow a cob of corn, he'll eat it. And the methane that is produced is 20 to 23 times stronger as a global, I don't even like the way that started. Again, question again?
You showed a really interesting slide.
Oh, okay.
We were talking this morning about the relationship between CO2 and meat consumption and oil usage. Talk about that.
Okay. We look at the sources for CO2 and for all global warming gases, methane being a big one. Methane's more than 20 times worse. 20 tons of CO2 is not as bad as 1 ton of methane for the atmosphere warming. And if you drive your cars around and all the transportation that goes on, and you can look at the cars around here, that's 14% of the pollution put into the CO2 global warming atmospheric gases equation. Just livestock alone, because of the methane, times 20, times 23, because it's the bigger effect than CO2, has a larger effect, almost 18% at times, compared to 14% by driving around the cars. Now, then you get the livestock, you make the product, then you put it on the truck, and then you drive it somewhere else. So now all of a sudden we're getting this accumulative effect. So if someone can just have a 6-ounce filet instead of a 24-ounce porterhouse, all of a sudden you win. That's a win. Or even grass-fed. Grass-fed beef is so much less flatulent and belching than a corn-fed beef. It doesn't have as much fat in it. I get it. I know select, choice. I know all the way to get to prime. I know how to get there. But if you don't need that, and you can say, hey, grass-fed is better for me, better for the environment, let's have a grass-fed steak, then all of a sudden that's a win-win.